And yet again, another edition of the Dead program here on Global Television.
All with taking top stories. But today, being the World Press Freedom Day,
we'll of course be observing and of course also making interactions behind the day. This is observed annually and noted, established by the United Nations General Assembly in
1993. This to help to celebrate the fundamental principles of press freedom and assessing the state of press freedom throughout the world and to defend the media from attacks on their independence and pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the cause of duty. The day also acts as a reminder to government of the need to respect and uphold the right to freedom of expression as enshrined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It underlines the importance of freedom, independent, and pluralistic media in fostering transparency, accountability, and democracy. And in line with this, there are several reactions to and questions to issue of the press. And of course, this has been the government seems to be
paying deference to the issues and challenges that faced by journalists. And now the Nigerian guild of editors are reaffirming their media freedom for expressions and access to public information.
That is crucial to democracy and must be at the heart of Nigerian government
values and actions. And of course, we'll be taking a look at the fact that this provisional body of editors has said that it recognizes the critical role played by journalists, media workers, and freedom
independent media in protecting the country's democracy and
advise them not to give up in the spite of the prevailing economic challenges. We'll be joined by John Asoro, who is the president of Female Journalism Network
Nigeria, will be joining us later in the program to discuss the issues
and what journalists are actually facing around the world and using the case study of Nigeria. This story will be right back on the discussion.
So that's the maximum.
For still staying on the president, of course, joining us is Joy Asuna, the president of Female Journalists Network of Nigeria, to discuss
issues of press freedom. Good to have you join us on the program, Joy.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be part of the program. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. Give us an understanding of issues of press freedom in Nigeria.
I mean, all over the world, to have been set aside by the United Nations to celebrate.
Yeah, and of course, to also underscore the importance of journalism. Give us an understanding of the freedom of press here in Nigeria.
Well, we must remember where we are coming from, where we had very, famous people in our country fight for this press freedom that you and I are enjoying today. So I would admit that we have made a lot of progress. We have. I mean, you and I can effortlessly talk about the things that matter to us with the advent of contemporary media, social media spaces. We are seeing more transparency. The government is forced to be transparent when it comes to what they are doing. That's putting it side by side how it used to be, where there would be a shady, so to speak, in their doings, but they are forced now, and it's all out there in the internet. They are seeing leaked documents from the government. Questions are being asked. We are seeing more people participate in government. So if you go into press freedom, I must admit that there's so much to be thankful for. We have indeed done better. However, you still see the little trickles of intimidation that you still see government officials trying to do on journalists. Sometimes it's almost like you're an enemy when you try to get some information that I think should be out there. If you want to have a transparent government, I mean, why not have this information out there? We still hear journalists being almost attacked in cases where you are just doing your job. So when it comes to press freedom, we have definitely left where we used to be. We are not yet where we be. So yes, I really appreciate what this government is doing. If you notice, this administration, the Bola Ahmed administration, has been very, very hands-on. It almost seems like when we talk, he listens. Because if you've noticed in the past couple of months, we've seen changes in policies. I've thought in some policies where when you just bring it up, it seems to listen and give verses on it. I mean, that's beyond, not to mention the fuel subsidy policy and the fit for the Naira. But beyond that, we still have.
Go.
Okay, so like I was saying, we've seen this government listen is something to celebrate. It means that they are listening to government. I feel like, in fact, even law enforcement can do better in understanding what the role of the journalist is, the role of the presentation is. And so I would say we have done better than we used to be. We can be better, but it's something to applaud.
Okay. Let's take a look at the pictures right now with the issues of
harassment with security agencies. Most of the time, severally, I mean, we can't begin to count them.
Several events, you also find some of the security agencies have been legal with journalists. I do feel that there is the most due to engage and
for them to understand that in as much as they're doing their job, journalists
have been seen in any situation, we've also seen where they are around collection of phones, seizure bags, equipment, and all of that. With most times, security agencies, they cannot even begin to
count events. The issues of NSAS, during the NSAS protest last year when
correspondents and journalists were actually trying to investigate the issues of FCT transportation and all of that. You can name them. How do we begin to engage as security agencies to understand that?
In the middle of what they're trying to do, we're also trying to get a job done.
Michael, I mean, like I said earlier, there's so much we have to be thankful for. However, like you said, it's very legitimate to just said that you still see harassment, even with law enforcement that should be protecting the rights of every citizen and the journalist. But we also need to understand that this our security architecture is formed, and the mandates that they've been given was passed over by the military, by the colonial masters rather. So you now see that it now seems like there is no proper citizens engagement. Otherwise, why would the security agent see a journalist that's trying to do his work and then attack the journalist? We have instances where cameras are broken, are destroyed, journalists are arrested, some have even gone through. I mean, if you follow the news, we're all speaking about several issues where the release of a journalist just recently. Now, we also need to have a fine line. I don't know if there's some engagement that would just have a fiat, but the government has to do something, especially at this period where we're talking about press freedom. We are tired of the narrative. We keep hearing people come every day. You know, it seems like, okay, it's Press Freedom Day. Everybody comes and talks about the potential or the possibility, rather, of a press free nation. A press free nation is one that will see development, one that will see a reverberation of the wants of the citizen, who better put out there what the citizen wants than a journalist. So I understand maybe there can be that line that can be drawn between journalists and especially law enforcement, so that we just understand what our role is. However, it is not going to happen. So I guess, like I have always advised my colleagues in the field, let us just look for better ways of, doing what we do. If you have to be a little more diplomatic, unfortunately, that's the climb that we are. We still need to be a bit diplomatic, because I've also seen journalists who go head to head, maybe because of ratings as well, and tell you, well, I know my rights and all of that. That's already a fuse waiting to be, a matchstick waiting to be clicked. So we can also look for better ways of doing it. And then that engagement you're talking about, we've had several, we've had conferences, we've had summits, trainings, where it seems we put together journalists and the law enforcement agents, and hoping that they could understand the fine line. The journalist wants to break the news. In that same instance, the law enforcement agent wants to maybe preserve forensics, or maybe just ensure law and order. How can we find ourselves in that place where we are not clashing in our jobs? We don't even need to clash in our jobs. But unfortunately, an order from above can just change everything, because of that things we're putting, where the journalist is portraying the scene maybe in bad light. He wants everybody out, but that's not how it works in a democracy. So maybe we have to do more in understanding what a democratic government is. Maybe we have to, properly or effectively strengthen our democratic institutions. Maybe that's all we have to do. But for today, as I'm talking to you, that has not happened at the moment. So law enforcement just has to understand their role in trying to protect the rights of every Nigerian, every citizen, and the journalist is not um, excluded.
All right. I mean, several concerns regarding
regarding
attacks
attacks by
journalists. I
journalists. I
mean,
mean,
law
law
enforcement
enforcement
agencies
agencies
with
with
journalists,
journalists,
and
and
it's
it's
troublesome
troublesome
because
because
if
it's
it's not
no
well
one
managed
man
and
can
addressed,
address
it
it
might
might
actually
actually
get out of hand. The security and the law enforcement are meant to also protect lives and
them
property,
property
and
and
not to
not to
destroy
destroy
them in
them
the
in the
cause
cause
of
that
even
even
journalists
journalists
who
who
have
have
identity
identity
still
still
have
have
been
been
very
very
much
much
uneasy here
uneasy
in
here
the
in the
country.
country.
It's
It's
something
something
government
government
must begin to pay attention to. I mean, let's take an assessment on the engagement
engagement
with
with
the political
political
actors
actors
or
or
political
political
parties.
parties.
Do you
Do you
feel
feel
that
that
they
they
are
are
undermining
undermining
the
the
jobs
jobs
of
of
journalism in
journalism
the
in the
country
country
from
from
your
your
assessment?
assessment?
Well, most concerning actually is the uncovered streets of social media, really. If you want to be concerned at the moment, it is that streets of social media where it doesn't seem to have the ethics that you and I are practicing on. There's no such thing. You see pictures of minors out there in ways it shouldn't be portrayed. We also see several pictures of gruesome pictures sometimes because everybody now is a journalist in the internet. You see them try to post first and get click. And so when you are doing that, you don't even look at all that governs or the principles and ethics that governs what we do. So most concerning is our social media space. How can we get it to such a point that we are no longer afraid? We are seeing the bullying that happens. We just had an election not long ago. We saw the campaign of calumny that happened in our social media spaces. There's fake news everywhere. In fact, the need to verify our stories before we publish is even stronger today now. Where do you verify? People just are so mischievous on the internet these days that you see them pull out uh, pictures that maybe didn't even happen in Nigeria. But because we have a very volatile situation at the moment, we have economic challenges, we have security challenges, we have inflation challenges, the purchasing power of an average Nigeria is so low. So it's already volatile. Tensions are high. So we have to be very concerned about our social media space. That is the one we keep hammering on. While at one end we must, thank the social media space for giving the platform to everyone to express themselves. We have to be very weary of what can go on there. We've seen people commit suicide, not because what was exposed is something that is true. So it's one thing to expose an ill in society, but it's another thing to expose to put out there something that's not true. And you know how we are as human beings. That very often you don't go back to fact check something you've heard or read. You just go to town with it, and people would bully you online. We've seen that severally. Sometimes we forget that politicians, celebrities, people who are in our faces every day behind the screen are human beings as well. So we have to do something about social media. I'm not asking for a stiff regulation. I'm just asking for the laws around our information so that everybody knows to be responsible, fact check before you repost. Those are the information that is what we have to be hammering over and over.
All right. Away from that, we'll now move over to assess issues of
assessing information. You understand, because of the just made instances on the issues of social media, sometimes the speculations have given room lack of information
by those in government or by those respective authorities have now given room for issues of fake news.
Take a look at when journalists are embarking on a research, access to information. We also understand that a very chapter 39,
41 empowers access to information, but it seems there are some secret acts that
public officers are using to limit journalists from accessing information. Have you ever encountered this issue, and you think that there may be a way to enhance so that you can enhance the issue
of accessing information?
There's almost no journalist that has not had an issue with accessing information, especially when it comes to government parastatals or agencies or ministries. Every journalist will tell you that it has not been a walk in the park in trying to get information. We are very quick to, get treaties, sign treaties, and sign international agreements as to look at our Communication Act, for instance, Information Act, for instance. As a procurement department, you should have it online. I shouldn't even have to be a citizen, a journalist, or trying to unravel anything. As your procurement process must be open. We must all see it. It must be transparent. It must be online. But how many people are compliant? How many ministries, departments, and agencies are compliant to that? Not many. I stumbled on an index that was, I think, conducted by the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Watch. It's very unfortunate that how many local governments, as is supposed to be, have websites where they tell you projects that are going on. Do you know that in the entire country of Nigeria, there are just 5? And in that 5, out of the 774 local governments in Nigeria, in that 5, it's only 2 that posted some sort of project. So you see, we have a very long way to go when it comes to public accountability and transparency, especially in government. It is so bad that doors are shut in your face when you go to a government agency or ministry to get information that the public should effortlessly have. So yes, have a long way to go in that regard. I don't think the government is looking in that direction. It's something the government should look at, because when information from the right source is not out there, chances are it will fuel speculation. And that is why we've been suffering, the government has been suffering the backlash that they have. Nobody is talking about the good they've been doing, the development or the strides, efforts in trying to balance our economy, trying to lessen the pressure on the naira. Nobody's talking about that, because why? They have not been upcoming with information from official sources. So yes, it's a big, big problem that this government should decide right away to tackle.
I mean, thank you for that wonderful submission. Yeah, we'll now take a look at the fact that everyone seems to be in intention to break the news. They want to be the first person
to break the news. And issues of ethical challenges has also been facing the provision.
Where you find even quacks operating, everybody actually making interviews, interruptions, claiming journalists and all of that. You feel that there is the need
to actually Jacobs professionalism in the provision, because if this is not well addressed, the government may actually come out with some key policies that may actually limit what we are demanding, because the system is quite very worrisome right now. Everybody, with now the advent of social media, everybody wants a blog, everybody wants to tweet, everybody wants to have a voice in the situation, and sometimes the information are not even verified. So how can we begin to make sure that channels that are distributing information must understand the provision and also issues of professionalism?
I mean, you are asking this question. It goes without saying, there's so much that is clouded. If the EFCC opens their boots and want to do what is right, we surprise the billions of naira. Can you understand why there is no way any ministry would be very quick to tell you what their procurement details are? It's only recently, look at the flavor around the Calabar, Lagos highway. It's only because the former presidential candidate placed a lamb on it that we are seeing that talk around how we can ensure that there's transparency in that project. So we have a long way to go. Who do we call first? Who would ensure this transparency? Who would ensure that the right thing is done? And if the president does not show that leadership that he's supposed to show and show lead by example, we are not going to see any changes. There are no two ways about it.
Because the challenges are enormous. And now when you feel that this government,
because the expectation is quite very high on the President Bola Tinubu, what do you feel that the government of Nigeria must begin to use to avoid issues of press freedom?
Because we have so many cases of some already still battling the courts with the judiciary and all of that.
What are the expectations? I mean, speak at the level of the President of Journalism Network of Nigeria, female journalist network of Nigeria this time.
Well, we have challenges. I mean, sometimes when I want to over-amplify the challenges that female journalists face or journalists face in Nigeria, I remember the many other sectors that have issues as well. So I don't want us to overflow issues around journalism. The truth is, if there are institutions that work across board, if the economy is better, I promise you, we would see journalists thrive as well. If the institution, the law enforcement apparatus understand their role as law enforcers, we won't even need to unravel anything that will make you now seem as if you're witch hunting. And look at our media organization. It almost seems like everybody has an editorial leaning. And so when it's obvious, there are some television stations you tune to, you already know that this person is going to go against government. You go to another television station, very rarely do you have television stations, I mean, in Nigeria especially, where you say this person, I cannot tell their editorial colleagues because they are out there to do the right thing. There are very few. I can count with my 5 fingers in the midst of the many media organizations we have. So we have a lot of problems that we have to tackle first before we now talk about how we can stand our rights. I'm not even saying that journalists have not been compromised in several ways. We are always asking for better welfare. Just treat us right. Do what is we need to do. Media organizations are another sector. I have been private media organizations. I have been speaking about how they treat journalists. They treat what they call the freelance journalists. You go there, source for content. Some of them exclusive content. How do you negotiate this content that you know that this person has spent so much time to source for? It is no longer lucrative. And so what do? You wait for the whatever color of envelope they call it. It used to be brown envelope. These days the envelopes are no longer brown. So yes, you wait for that. So the welfare within stations and media organizations and outlets is something we should also talk about before we point fingers as to how journalists behave in the field. You won't blame a journalist. And with the poorest way everybody now is a journalist, I mean, sometimes, I met somebody who said, oh, she's a journalist and all of that. I asked, oh, okay, what medium do your work in? Are you in print? Are you in radio? And she said she's a blogger. Okay, so what's the name of your blog? Oh no, it's a personal blog. And if you go to her blog, she has all sorts of things inside it because I wanted to know what makes this person a journalist. There's no certification whatsoever. So the point is that we are all journalists these days. Everybody is a journalist. You see something, it doesn't make sense to you, you forget the ethics that guides our profession, you just post it out there, the scanty information that you already have. And I tell you, if you get a concept wrong, you have gotten everything wrong about that news. So you don't spend more. That's what I keep telling anybody who cares to listen is that you spend more resources in trying to crisis manage than you would spend in putting out the proper official information out there. So it's something that the government should really put in place. Owners of media organizations should try better in the welfare for journalists. You see them eat big and forget about the many staff that have to work so hard to get this content out there, to get this information out there. We have seen instances where journalists are forced to say no, to certain behaviors. You have done so much in research, in trying to unravel something. You're feeling like you're doing this for your country. And guess what? Your editor just says that cannot fly. Babe, I just got a call from the minister. I just got a call from this person or the other. And your story, the whole work just goes like that. We've had several instances. So yes, everybody just has to get better. There's so much we need to do in this country. I feel like a lot of us are just paying lip service to all the many things we can do for our country. It starts with you and I.
All right. Before we run over on this discussion, your
We're
group
group advocating for equality because I've also understood the fact that the majority of men and women in journalism. So your group advocating for equality in the profession.
Of course, definitely. There's something the Nigerian woman. Exactly. There's something the Nigerian woman doesn't say, especially the Nigerian.
Everybody of the press.
Well, now, what happens is, as journalists, we are so used to putting the situation out there in the society. Oh, we're talking about the underserved women. We're talking about the women who are being maltreated here and there. We're talking about domestic violence. How often have you heard a journalist come out to say that I was sexually violated by my boss? Because we're so used to telling other people's story, we rarely talk about our own story. And there are peculiarities to the problems female journalists face in the workplace. There are several peculiarities. The workplace bias that we face, nobody's talking about it. And that is where I come in, because we need to document it and address those issues that they face. We've had situations where a female journalist will say, I have not been promoted because, oh, well, I took a leave to have children. That is a biological part of a woman. There are dynamics to a woman. You cannot take that away from her. So how can we coin, or rather structure our environment such that it is open to the woman. It is more friendly and relatable to the challenges the woman face. That is why we are here. I mean, I don't want to talk about the many disparities that we face, but they are indeed in our faces. The sexual harassment in the media, nobody is talking about it, but it does exist. And just think about a woman who eventually, for all she has done, oh, she's good at what she's done. She probably has worked her behind out to, to learn how to script, to learn how to broadcast, to learn about reporting, to learn everything.
All right, I mean, a bit
Sound solutions and concern for coming from the president, network journalists in the country, and of course, other patients in the world.
Press freedom. We'll go on a quick break right now, and once we return, okay, good to have you back. I mean,
so why is that a discussion?
Okay, so basically, we can do better. Let's use this pen of ours to help society. We can always think or look around us and see whose story needs to be amplified. Let's not stop, no matter the intimidation we've been facing, the harassment we've been facing. Let us not stop. Let's do all we can to get the Nigeria of our dreams. That's the summary I'd like to give on this beautiful day of International Press Freedom Day.
Yes, indeed.
Sound solution, of course, for the fact that things are very, very fair, World Press Freedom was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1992
to celebrate the fundamental principle of press freedom and assessment. Thanks, Joel. Let's head over to another discussion for today. I think
over the course of the week, Zambia released some votes of the 2024 UTME, and several Nigerians have been questioning.
Is it issues of social media? Is it issues of TikTok? Is it issue of co-parenting? They're trying to push blame to
what is the cause of the release. I think if you look at the breakdown of the result, about 1,842,464 candidates accepted the examination.
8,401 scored 300 and above, and 77,000 scored 250,
and 439,000 scored 200 and above, while 1,402 scored 39. That would be below 200. And this is quite sad.
Well, we've actually gotten here. We saw how JAM had threatened the
facilities that arrest any parents who really welcome close to the facility. I do know that there's a negligence at the part of the parents, issues of our teachers. Where do we get wrong?
I think the Nigerian students did very well. I think they did, considering how our morals have dropped. In fact, they impressed me. Frankly, I didn't think they had even recorded all that they did. It is unfortunate. I mean, if you remember growing up, at what point would you have...
So the distraction is very much now.
I didn't get that.
Are you saying that the distraction is on the high side right now for them?
Considering the way we are raising our children, of course, definitely. I mean, you must admit that growing up, reading was a culture. Every parent, it was, if you visit your father, your friend's parents, they are hammering it on you, read your books. If you visit anywhere you go to, you're playing around, everybody who meets you by the roadside is reminding you, you play, but remember your books. So we have so watered down our education level to a point where every child, I am surprised, but I'm seeing minors on social media. I have no reason, I do not see any reason why minors should be on social media. There are a lot of things that I see on the streets of social media that appalls me, that shakes me to my core. And there is no reason. I mean, when you now think about a child who is not yet intellectually, psychologically matured enough to see these things, and they are even participating, you are seeing them 24 hours there. They are not using the social media or the many benefits of the internet for studying. Parents are beginning to, or rather, parents these days, like, no, don't scold your child for any reason. It seems it's normal,
Some of
Some
the
of our
for your
content
child
content
they
to just.
get
creators
even
even
at
at
their
their
homes.
homes.
I
I
mean,
mean,
the
the children
children get
get
to
to
even
enjoy
enjoy
some
some
of
of
the
the content.
content.
Exactly. It is so appalling. It is so appalling. And this generation of children are ones that nothing is hidden any longer. There was such a time you will be afraid, very much afraid, for anybody in your community, for your neighbor to even see you hold hands. I saw the secondary school student. One was proposing. I don't know what that was. Going on one knee, handing over a ring. What in the world are you doing? Is that the school your parents sent you to? You're not even afraid that somebody will go back and tell, what happened to what's happening to us? Are we trying to imitate the West? There are jobs in the West. So if you're trying to imitate the West, I am sorry for you. There are jobs in the West, and very, very many jobs. We're having over 40% unemployment rate here. So if you're imitating the West, I wish you luck with that, where you can mess around, you can go without education, and then somehow you have social security that ensures you have your welfare. If that is our where we are going to, we are not putting into cognizance our own society, where we have those who have even schooled, studied hard, do not have employment. And so you have decided not to study hard, and then you're playing around. If I tell you the kind of things I have seen parents, as extracurricular activities, that seems to be taking over everything. So it's really sad. But I just applaud those who made their result at the moment. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was going to be worse than what we are even recording right now, because the morals, our principles are dwindling badly. Children are no longer being encouraged to study their books. It seems like everybody wants the fray of Davido and Whiskey. Well, we can't all be Davido and Whiskey making money out of music and talent. And they're not even proving talent, unfortunately. So I don't know where we can start. And then
It's not,
another thing, I'm
but
not
don't you
blaming
think
The
though that
children
there's a need
all
for us to understand that, I mean, social media has come to stay.
there's
There's
a
a
need
need
for
for
us
us
to
to
understand that we must begin to live with it. And there are several things that parents must understand. I mean, we're in the
it's the
fast
fast
changing
changing
world,
world,
and
and
the
the
reality is
reality is
already
already
facing
facing
up.
us.
Gone
Gone
are
are
the
the
days
days
where we
where we
didn't
didn't
have
have our
strong
strong
social
social
media
media
like
like
we
we
do
do
right
right
now,
now,
where
where
devices
devices
are
are
quite
quite
available
available
for
for
everyone.
everyone.
I
I
don't
don't
feel
feel
that
that
the
the
more to parent to regarding the current reality we are facing.
There are several tools on this same social media that are not just for entertainment, they are for learning. There are several tools on this same social media. My concern is not social media. My concern is largely because we are not making proper use of this social media. We are not, and parents are relaxing on
So
their
there's a
there's
own.
a
need
need
for
for
So
education
education
on
it's
of
social
very
social
media
media
sad
like
and
that,
what we are
all of
all of
that.
seeing.
that.
Another reason why you're seeing this dwindle, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I'm
Yes, I'm
with
with
you.
you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm
Yes, I'm
with
with
you.
you.
Another thing is, look at our curriculum. It is not one that's contemporary to the needs of the African child.
Absolutely.
Look at the centers where these children are studying at. These are children who have the access to see how Chinese children as classrooms are. They are seeing the US child's classroom. What would motivate them to come sit in tables, dilapidated buildings just to study when they know they can just be playing around? So we have to, first of all, have a contemporary syllabus, one that reflects today's Nigerian child. That's one. I mean, talking from the government perspective. However, our parents have to do more in restricting social media. I would always say it. A child has no business having a social media account. A child has no business doing that. A child has no business having the opportunity. I mean, look at what we're seeing. A child would rather study dance steps, come on social media to prove to you how well they dance to a certain music, sometimes almost on class. That's the saddest part of this. Sometimes they're not properly dressed even, and their parents are nodding to this. But it means you have relinquished education for dancing. It means you've relinquished education for the several other extracurricular activities that the children are engaged in. So why then come out again to complain that, oh yeah, they didn't do well in school? Do well in what?
Absolutely.
Rather than the program. The issues of the fact that the youth have, young people, elderly people have been amplifying the issues
of school. There's a particular slang, school and scam. So several times it made it look as if those who went to school,
out of school, with no jobs for many years. The government are saying that there's no need for them to sit down to read because their elders, let's say, university many years ago,
are not having it easy with life, and so why must I really prioritize education? Don't you feel that there is a cultural issue first right now, and what government must do to address it so that we can get out of that as we begin to wrap up?
Well, you would not blame the reward system we see in Nigeria. I grew up in an academic house. My father was a principal of a secondary school, and I know he wasn't doing so well. I could see the politicians, they didn't even pass my father's class. They will come in vehicles to say, oh, we are coming to greet our principal. But long story short, the reward system in Nigeria, how much is the university lecturer being paid? How much is the professor being paid? And then you are seeing the video, you are seeing those who necessarily have not proven to prioritize education. You are seeing them driving, you are seeing them with the big cars. You are seeing actors and actresses with the big cars. And that's who you want to be, naturally. And that's what we are inadvertently showing these children. That's one danger of social media. There was such a time that, the headmaster of the community would be advising parents, He held a huge place in society, and he was revered for his educational prowess. So you come to him because he knows better in the community. You want to associate with somebody who has legitimately made money. But look at our politicians, 40 very expensive vehicles around us. How many education did they get? In fact, it's being watered down all the time. We are reading about how some of them didn't even have certificates. Somehow they found their ways there. Some of them have not shown you that they've bothered in education. Those are the people who have become society shapers. They have shaped the opinions of this country. So you're right. These are the people who got the reward system for the person who has studied hard. The electrician in Nigeria, I was having a conversation with somebody in a construction company, and he says, we are just as good as the international companies that our government goes to get. After painstakingly serving and studying and knowing contemporary construction trends, what happens after that? Nothing happens. My brother, you will have to now look for an international organization to attach yourself with to even get the necessary attention and
so thank you very much, President Female Journalist Network of Nigeria, for your thoughts and contribution on the program, The Dex, here on Global Television. Thanks for joining us.
It was wonderful to talk about these very important issues.
Thank you. And that's, of course, the package and, of course, the size
of our program today, where we've actually get to honor the fact that the press freedom is necessary for us to get good democracy. And you and I must actually contribute to making sure that we have a world with free press, so that information, accessing of information as well can also be common, so that the world can be a better place when you are informed.
Remember that if you are not informed, you will be definitely about the size of the program here on the Dex. I remain Edison Michael. See you again on Monday with another edition. Bye-bye for now.